All right, everybody, I think we can get started. It's going to be a short presentation on Event Manager. Really quick, there's a housekeeping note. If you're checking out today, we've been asked to tell you to check out by noon. Some people have been asking for late checkouts for the conference and being refused, so plan to get your stuff before noon if that applies to you. I'm Mark Shankland, Supply Chain Manager for AirCom Corporation. This is Chuck Barano, who's my counterpart in Texas, and we kind of became the de facto quantum representatives for AirCom. I drove the implementation project 2.5 years ago, and 6 months ago, an intrepid version of myself agreed to do this, so for whatever reason, I'm up here doing the presentation. We have done some fun stuff with Event Manager, so hopefully we can give you guys some ideas, and I think of anything you take back, this is one of the easiest things to get started at to kind of get automated and save repetitive task time. Real quick, just hands up if you have the event module. All right, so it looks like about 80% or above have it. So just a note, if you don't have it yet, Andrew Valley has agreed to extend the discount on it for this month. So if you're, if like us, you're tasked with bringing back something to save time and money, this might be a good one to purchase. And I am from the Colorado branch, but I did not bring you anything before you asked. So basically the same information. We're from AirCom Corporation. We do ECS systems for small aircraft, so we're on a lot of Bell product, small fixed wing. We've got about 120 employees. Like I said, we're about 2.5 years into our quantum adventure, and the Texas branch is about a year into it. So compared to a lot of you, we're probably still very new users, but I did have a lot of good input. I went to Amatech based on their presentation a couple years ago, and got some input. I went to a bunch of the component control users. I posted on Q Group and had some good responses from a group of people, so thanks to everybody who contributed to this. So we're gonna just summarize the module, cost, access, and setup. I'm not gonna read everything line by line, but basically when you review this, or if you do, there's a kind of an out-of-the-box slide, and then we'll go into some more exotic uses and hopefully give people some ideas for saving money on repetitive tasks. So just to summarize what we've done, we didn't have when we started 2.5 years ago, we didn't have an IT department at all. It was really just some well-intentioned employees like myself who did the implementation, and then we relied on component control and on the Q Group to kind of guide us along this path. And we ended up doing some neat things with it. The list there, the vendor ratings is probably the more interesting one that we'll present. Although as I say that, I'm the supply chain manager, so to some of you that may not be very interesting. We are also a manufacturer, which is a minority here at Q Group, but we've kind of covered some of what we would describe as weaknesses in quantum with some reporting that's delivered in Event Manager. We do some metrics that we use at a morning shipping meeting, and we're starting to put our KPIs, or key performance indicators, that go up to the president, CEO level, and we're starting to look at dashboard and things like that as well. I'll just mention Paul Stewart, who's doing the presentation in the other room. He's mentioned a theme this year, which is kind of using these tools for your workflow, and we definitely are part of that group. We do a VSM project, or value stream mapping, and we try to use technology to streamline those repetitive tasks. So, and we also encounter the same resistance that you have when you try to roll out something like Contact Manager. If you can make it easier on the users, that's always helpful to get them rolling. We'll do a kind of a highlight list at the end, and maybe in the Q&A, if people have some great uses, they can suggest them to other people. I'll say again, I'm not a technical expert at this. We've relied on component control, so just kind of a general overview and some cool ideas we've been able to pay for. So as of yesterday, I learned that 10.5, the first bullet is incorrect. It's no longer an Oracle scheduler interface. It's now a little more reliable because it's native into the Quantum system. So it was too late to fix this one, but just note if you're before 10.5, you're still an Oracle scheduler. If you could do an ROI process on all of your report running, if you're not using Event Manager, you'd see pretty quickly that you save a ton of time just automating it. And just for an example, it's a lot of emails, but I probably get 10 different reports a day that are delivered via Event Manager that are either used in the KPIs or otherwise providing information on performance, how people are doing, or how the company is doing as a whole. Just back to this really quick. The cost is the same as any module cost, so if you already have a discount agreement, it'll apply to that. The current special that Andrew extended, I think, was a 50% cost off on the module, so it's a good time to pick it up. And it is, it's a separate login using the SysDBA login. When you actually log in, this is what it looks like. So you can see on the right are a list of the available out-of-the-box reports. You just drag and drop those over to the left side, and you're able to set the time. Most of you know this, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. Then you get a list. That list on the left is populated with what's scheduled. These do kick out in PDF, as it says, in most cases. So this example just shows that the customer field for sending automated invoices, you can send it to a group which relates to a field, and you'll see in each individual setup that it gives you the opportunity to send it to the invoice email, to customers, to users. Just a note from the roundtable yesterday, you can only use one group like that per field in the setup. And if that's confusing, you can email me later and I'll explain it. So one of the things we used to spend a lot of time on, and it's still somewhat time consuming doing the root cause analysis and working with the suppliers, but vendor ratings. So Quantum has a really nice canned vendor report that you can see on the left there that we use for delivering to the supplier. It's not everything that we watch in-house. We also consider cost and if they're potentially a competitor, all sorts of other things. But for quality and on-time delivery, it's a really nice report. It gives the detail so they can check if they disagree with it. And it gives that nice little graph. So one of the reasons we went into Quantum was that we liked how that worked. And as the project manager, I got to put a little bit of weight behind it to get Quantum. However, when you actually went to deliver this, you had to run this huge report or run a report for each customer, which is very time consuming. And we thought it's kind of ridiculous to have to do that when all this data is in the system and we have Event Manager. So Stephen Sullivan from Component Control, are you in here, Stephen? He's there at the back. We kind of presented this RFQ to Stephen, and he was able to build it's a monthly and biannual report that goes out to the suppliers just using the vendor report, which is all well and good, but then you still have to do your due diligence to actually rate them, do corrective actions. So we've grabbed some of the UDF fields here in additional info 3, and it's kicking out a past rating, a current performance rating, and then it also sends a summary report of everybody that's changed over that time. So if you're AS9100, the auditors really love to see something like this where you're actively tracking it and you've just made it very easy on yourself once it's scheduled. Another very recent addition we did was the approval code. The first run, we were sending it to everybody, including our pine-scented floor cleaner supplier, which they always do a good job, so we didn't think we had to rate them. So we've changed it to look at approval code, and now it's only looking at a tier 1 supplier or the people that we really want to focus on for quality. So you can, as long as you can kind of dream it up, most things will work in this, and Stephen did a great job putting that together. As a manufacturer, we also had problems, and I was used to, excuse me, a JD Edwards environment going into quantum. So the challenges in going into manufacturing, the tools just aren't quite there. So we've dummied up a couple of things as an aid to account for that. And one of the problems we have is we'll do a forecast, which loads in a bunch of demand. We'll also put in manufacturing orders and work orders to drive demand. But as things change and you cancel orders, there wasn't a good way to identify what needed to be pushed out or otherwise canceled. So we created a cancel or delay report that looks at the orders on hand versus the actual demand in the system and gives you a summary of material to look at for cancellation and for delaying it. So as your schedule changes, you're not taking the hit in inventory. And then that bottom chart is just an open order report by date that there's some in the system that are baked in. But what we really wanted was a visual tool that we could smooth out orders over time. So we were looking at really the dollars coming in that chart, and you can see the spikes that we've got on some of the weeks. So it's each color is a week, and we just look at it and target the real big spike weeks and then try to level it out so the cash flow is evened. In addition to that, we've done a number of other reports. We wanted to track what was received but not finalized by quality because we had a bottleneck issue there. And we've kind of developed just a morning meeting that reviews data in each bottleneck point, and then we know if we need to put additional resources to that bottleneck to get it cleared out, or if it's a repetitive problem, we can do a corrective action. So there's kind of a summary here of the other uses. The metrics I already mentioned. We do use an R&D warehouse, so we do a separate report to remove that from the active inventory, just for value. We automated, which is a canned report, just the WIP total for the day. So we report out in the daily meeting inventory and WIP and the trend. We have a nice 17-month usage report that Component Control made for us that it just gets populated into a folder, and then it's a reference for everyone throughout the day to look at. We do have a few scripts running, which is another nice thing. If you're doing automated maintenance to correct some issue, it's a nice way to set up something that a person doesn't have to actually remember to run. Then workflow. Right now we're doing a couple of VSM projects to streamline receiving and warranty returns, and we're making a process that will include event manager and probably be opening and closing contacts during that process, which is a big pain point for a lot of people. Calibration, approved vendor, expiration. There's a lot of really good baked-in tools, and then with a little bit of work, you can really do whatever you can imagine. And we accomplished this all really just with a simple Excel ROI spreadsheet. So once you have the vision, get it quoted, and then just if the ROI makes sense, you pull the trigger on it. Almost everything we looked at was paying for itself within 3 months based on our calculations, so that's a no-brainer to go ahead with it. And now we've saved hundreds of hours through this effort. Now we did, think that it would be nice to have some of these capabilities in-house. So we've been working over once we got over the initial implementation, chaos and mess, we did move into bringing in an IT department. So we've got kind of 1.5 people in IT now, and we have been working on kind of self-training for SQL. We brought Steve Stoner out for crystal reporting training on site, which was great because instead of just sitting in a classroom at the community college and taking a crystal class, we actually had the link into Quantum to show us how crystal reporting actually worked in Quantum. And we're kind of still on that path. I'd say we're kind of half and half, but now we've got really 3 or 4 crystal experts and a lot of capability that we didn't have before. All right, so when I canvassed everybody, I got a bunch of good list of parts back, or list of things that they've done. So I'll just read off a few of these. I've tried to give credit where it was given, but briefly, user certifications monitor, Stephen Sullivan, all these top ones are Stephen. The RO vendor status query, I know a lot of us who use ROs, if you don't manage those, they can kind of pile up and not get closed out correctly. PO approvals, this is something we might be looking at next. The native approval level module, or the functionality in Quantum isn't great, so just doing it via Event Manager may be a better way to go. The Event Manager hooks here from Dominique. Basically, the way to think about it is any status change or any system change whatsoever or any timed event, you can automate with Event Manager. Notifications for claims. So this is something we're starting to look at when an RMA number is issued, a contact is automatically created, and then it tracks that whole process, and then at the end when you have a status change, it automatically closes it out. The number 8, the quarantine warehouse activity flag. This is a great idea for notifying people that some material didn't make it, and that's a schedule risk or could be a schedule risk. Shipping notifications from Amy. Shelf life limit. We've probably been dinged more on shelf life limit in our AS9100 audits than any other single thing. So using something like this to track your expired material, helps you do what you say you're doing in your procedure already, and keeps you out of trouble on the audits. So the standard form, where to find more information, I threw in Oracle Scheduler, but that's less applicable in 10.5. Again, there's a nice Amatec presentation a couple years ago. Event Manager is a very popular application. So, key points: save time on repetitive tasks. If you can do an ROI on just saving a couple hours a day, it adds up really quickly. And humans, from my barcoding work, if I'm remembering right, they make an error about every 30 entries or 30 keystrokes. So if you extrapolate that over all of your manual processes, you're adding a lot of errors in what humans aren't the best at in repetitive tasks. And it's also not the enjoyable work. Free up people to do more creative work, gain that 20% of time to actually do improvement processes like this by automating. I heard a lot from the canvassing that smaller companies didn't have the resources to do this. Well, I think the ROI process and using data services or using another consultant, anyone can really do it. Most of the quantum data can be accessed through this, so you do have to kind of think about which modules you have. You may see a lot of presentations that are based on modules that maybe your company doesn't have. But whatever is active in your system, you can probably access from Event Manager. And again, I had a lot of help putting this together, and some study sessions with Chuck over the last 2 days at the Stone and Ballast Point tap houses to put this together. So hopefully it's been helpful. Any questions? No questions. How about any exotic uses that your company is using that maybe would help people out? Hey, Steven, you got anything for us? You got any other uses? Yeah, I can't hear you. Sorry.
It's all in the chronic control. Public speaker, I'm sorry for that. Just to talk a little bit about the example you called out, maybe call out a couple of the technologies that we use, some of the in-house competencies you may have to accomplish that. The vendor rating system that we built with Mark Shanklin required first off a modification of the standard vendor rating performance report in Quantum. We achieved that basically by adding a parameter to it that allows Event Manager to pass the company information to it. So as long as you have an understanding of the crystal reports, you can actually export our reports, modify them to additionally work with Event Manager, whereas just scheduling an Event Manager lets you set basically one list of recipients. We can now have it pick the recipient from the company that it's run for and have it sent directly to that company. So that was one piece of it. We also stored a procedure that's run by Event Manager that handles those UBFs that Mark called out so that we can store the previous vendor rating, update the latest vendor rating, and draw a report based on those vendor ratings showing the change, whether vendors have improved or not improved between the last rating and the next rating. So again, just want to call out a couple of technologies there. But as Mark was saying, the better you get with SQL, the better you get with crystal reports, the better Event Manager gets for you as well. So a lot of stuff that we can help with as well. We can do training sessions over the phone with you to help you understand it a little bit better. And really good presentation by Mark. Thank you.
It's also a really quick presentation. So,
how many people went to? Is this on? Who was at Nick Chambers' receiving inspection the other day? The use of Event Manager along with Contact Manager there is something that was kind of eye-opening for me. We're going to go straight into that as soon as we get back, because the ability to know what you're doing in receiving and what's still open, and like was mentioned in the last presentation, the way to quarantine things by using different statuses and automating that with Event Manager. That's a big one that I took away from here that we don't have in this because we haven't done it yet. But Nick, that was an eye-opener for me.
question?
Yeah, today, Event Manager, when you schedule a report to be sent out, it only sends out a PDF. Is there a plan to ever have any other formats?
I'd defer to Stephen on that, or?
Well, there actually is a custom, you can do custom SQL, so you can take whatever SQL statement you've got, and you can actually set that up, and it'll send it out to CSV file. So instead of attaching it to PDF, it would send it to you in a CSV file. That's already common basic functionality within Event Manager. To touch on a couple other uses that we actually do at SDS, I don't know if anybody goes about tracking your inventory maybe by age, and you want to know what's 1 year old, 2 year old, etc. So we've got a procedure that we fire off that goes in and categorizes all the inventory, and it actually writes that onto the stock. We run that every day so that way any new material that came in at least gets categorized and put into a bucket. You can report off of that easy enough using stored procedures. If you have customer portal, You can set it up so that you get event manager notices that fire back to your customer, says, hey, we received your order, we'll send you an acknowledgement shortly once we've got it processed. And it'll also send an internal email maybe to your team to say, hey, we just got a new order from the portal. You need to go in there and update your orders. So there's a ton of uses, and go on the Qt website. I mean, I know I saw Mark on there a ton as they were getting started on their stuff. You're gonna have a lot of people giving you feedback, ask your questions, we provide examples, so really use that part of it as well.
Yeah, this community has been amazingly helpful. So if you connect into it, they can definitely help you with the vision and getting it done. And there's even contractors, but usually Paul or Nick will respond to you the same day. It's actually pretty amazing.
Send your customer out an email every other week, say, hey, pay your bills. And the state's right there, you don't have to worry about logging down your accounting department.
Yeah, the time it's saved accounting is pretty amazing. Sending the emails out every night and then closing the accounting periods without having to stay there is something we're looking at now, just to make the end of whatever your period is a little less painful.
So who has the next great idea? Share it.
All right, well, thanks everybody for coming. If you have any questions, please feel free to get a hold of me. As Paul said, also feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. Thank you.